Welcome to another Cleverly Changing podcast. I am so excited that you have joined us. Please let your friends know this podcast is all about educating our children. So we are homeschool moms, but our podcast isn't just for those who homeschool. It's for anyone who wants to educate their kids and supplement their education. So we hope that you will enjoy our conversations, and please let other people know our podcast is found in the places that podcasts are played, like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud, and also TuneIn. You can find us in some other places as well, like YouTube, but we are definitely online and available for you to listen to. Our thought for today is an Ethiopian proverb: he who learns teaches. And it says, he who learns teaches. It's now time for the word of the episode. Our word for today is truth, Ukweli. In Swahili, truth is Ukweli. Thanks for joining us for another podcast. I'm Elle.
And this is Miriam.
And we are here to switch things up a bit. We're going to have a candid conversation about current events and also about homeschooling. So, let's get started.
Where should we start? Well, I was saying to Elle just a little bit ago that, excuse me, I was saying to Elle just a little bit ago that this year is my third year, yes, 2.5 years, 3 years, homeschooling, and I finally kind of feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't feel so confused and lost. I kind of have a little bit more of a system, and even though it can be challenging with so many little heads running around the house, I feel like I have a pretty good grip on things. And I guess when you said, you know, we're veterans, and so it just kind of seems like, oh, no biggie, this is a breeze. Let's just switch this here and do that there. And other folk, you may not necessarily feel like, oh, okay, well, how about we just change this around and that'll work for everybody. They're, scrambling and losing it.
Right. Since this isn't the first years of our homeschooling journey, we just wanted to kind of stop and talk to you guys for, a little bit, to be real, because for us, we're no longer in that panic mode. Like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? My kids are bored. I feel overwhelmed. I got to grade these papers. I got to do this. I got to do that. We're really just kind of like, things are set. I know what we're going to do. I know everything is going to be okay. Not that everything is ascension easy. It's
Right.
Just that we're not worried about what curriculum we're about to use, because we know that it's not necessarily all about the curriculum for our kids. We're going to expose them to the information that they need to know, and we're going to assess and see if they're weak in some areas, and if they are, we're going to seek out ways to help them in those areas. But it's no reason to panic, because we feel like, yeah, for the most part, we got this.
And I want to tell you, the biggest reason that I think I feel more comfortable and less panicky is because, and I tell my oldest daughter this all the time, slow down. In fact, I just said it today. Slow down. That is the key to your life, baby. Just slow down, because she always racing through something and then she skips things, she misses something. I have the same issue. I want to hurry up and get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move it along. But in the slowing down and taking in those moments, there's a lot more to be gained, a deeper understanding, a more personal
Approach.
connection to the material, whatever it is, even if it's just taking a walk or making a cup of tea, being intentional and purposeful about the things that we're doing. I know that, saying something like that to a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 11-year-old, it seems a little dense, but as time moves on, they're going to remember you said that, and they're going to understand exactly what that means at some point, that being intentional and purposeful in the things that you're doing can make a world of difference. So in slowing down, I'm not worried about, oh, she should be doing X, Y, and Z, but she's only halfway there. I'm not stressing it. Why does everything have to move so fast? Let's be for real. Just because things are moving fast doesn't mean that we have to move fast with it in order to keep up.
Right. And I think we also recognize in our journey that it's not about the speed of learning something. It's about the fact that you do learn it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it takes you a longer time than it takes, it's no competition. It's no race. It's just, I want you to get this information, but I want you to get this information in a time that's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think homeschooling really allows you that opportunity to slow down, because you're not competing against, she's not competing against your other children. She's not competing against anybody.
Right.
She
That's
is her own competition, so to speak, if she feels like a competition is what pushes her to move forward. But for the most part, competition isn't even a factor. It's just like, I want to learn. I want to learn and I want to get this done. So I think that's the beauty of homeschool. And I think that also is very important about, that's one of the drawbacks of public school. You're competing with a classroom full of kids, whether you want to make everything a competition just naturally, the way education is set up in the school system, to be the top of the class, my top 5 students. Like everything is kind of set up to be a competition against other people. And in homeschool, some homeschool co-ops are also set up like that. But for the most part, if that's not your thing, if you don't want to be competing against others in homeschool, you are free not to. And I think that's a beautiful thing, not to feel like everything's a rat race.
Yeah, competition, there's a such thing as healthy competition and unhealthy competition. You got the healthy competition where it's more an inspirational kind of thing. You inspire me to try to push myself a little further kind of thing, versus, no, I just have to be at the top before for being at the top sake. There's no real reason to be there other than to wave your fanny in the air and saying, look at me. So it's a fine line with creating a healthy competitional base. And if you don't thrive off of that sort of energy within, it doesn't have to be there. And if you do, then that's great. I think in the traditional school system, they do it with the intent of being helpful and healthy, but I think that more often than not, it kind of turns out to be more detrimental, especially to students who need more time in certain areas. But when you're at home, you can take your time, and it's okay. And nobody's rushing you but you. That's what I would say. And nobody mad but you. Nobody's rushing you except for you. So be kind to yourself. Be gentle with yourself. And it's okay. Yeah.
Right. Would you say that you've come to the realization and just a level of comfort, that you've come into your own comfort level, because what really helped you, get there? Because yes, this is the 3rd year. Was it just time that you needed? what has really helped resolve those fears? Because I think when you first homeschool, there is a fear. Like, I'm going to screw my kid. My kid up. Like, they're not going to learn anything. I'm going to get frustrated. Like, there are real fears that come with homeschooling. It's not like, ooh, I'm going to homeschool my kids, all of a sudden I'm going to become a scholar. Like, there's some myths about homeschooling that people think all of a sudden your kid's just going to be this genius because you're taking that quality time. People homeschool for different reasons, and you get frustrated as a parent. That's going to be a given. Like, it's not. And every year you're going to have to find your own comfort level to make that work. But it's not all, just because you say, I have time to homeschool and I'm going to homeschool, that doesn't automatically mean it's going to be comfortable.
Or easy.
So now you are in that space of comfort. And I want to say that probably when I started homeschooling, when we started this podcast, I want to say I was kind of in my space of comfort. Like, just like, well, I've been doing it for this long.
I can't lie. You always seemed like you were in the space of comfort. You knew what to do. You was just like, you know what? I remember one day I was over at your house and you were having them look at videos of cuttlefish, I think it was, on YouTube. And I was like, it took a little minute for me to realize, oh, this is, science. It's like watching National Geographic, right? You're learning something about their habitat. You're learning something about their biological mechanisms and all that other kind of stuff. And of course, a 4-year-old isn't really absorbing it in that manner, but you were exposing them to things like that. And I remember thinking, oh, how come I didn't think of that?
I don't know. Like, I guess for me, I never thought I was going to screw them up, so to speak. I just kind of felt like school isn't linear.
No, it certainly isn't.
And I felt like, wait a minute, all the people I went to college with, we all had very different backgrounds. And I'm pretty sure we weren't taught the same things because our experiences and our output for what we were doing were completely different. But I did feel like we all had education enough that we were able to compete. And so I personally believe that even if I teach my kids different stuff than what they're learning at public school, my kids, if I give them a foundation of reading, math, and science, like if I teach them how to learn, they'll be okay. Like, it's really been that rudimentary in my mind.
And I just saw a post on Facebook this week where someone was saying that the only classes that they teach their children are reading and math. And I was like, I can't lie. That is where my focus lies. I said, well, I'm going to throw science in too because I think that's a very, I don't know if it's because I'm just kind of nerdy and I've always been interested in science that I push for that, or if it's because, and even though I do see the value in having that, I think those 3 subjects are absolutely key to being able to function in this world.
Yeah, I think when it comes to science is all around us.
Right,
It's no escaping it.
We are science.
Right. So in and of itself, science is intriguing. And so I think as an adult who's teaching our kids, if we're intrigued, our kids are going to pick that up. And so my goal as a parent is to love learning and to instill that love of learning in my kids. And I think I saw at an early age, hey, my kids enjoy this. Like, they were picking up stuff quicker than I was. And so I realized that even if I may not know something, my kids can learn it. And I think as a home educator, that's something that you have to take into account. Your kids don't only learn what you teach them.
Right.
They don't only learn information that you know. It goes beyond you and it goes beyond your expertise. And I think that's why so many kids who are exposed to homeschooling are able to thrive later on. Of course, this isn't always the case, but many of them are because they kind of have that self-motivation, that desire to learn on their own. And I think that's the key. It's not like when you're in public school, your driving force isn't necessarily your own motivation. It's more like, oh, I want to do this to be better than other people. Like it's usually somebody else comes into play. Like I want to impress my teacher
because I have to,
because I want to get this A. So when you homeschool, your motivation is a bit different, and I love the carefree nature of that. Now, our state does have some subject requirements.
Yes, and this was in one of the state groups, but I think that although that's what they do, either they are reviewed by umbrella, or they have they learned. I've learned even how to. I don't want to say circumvent the system, but how to do your own thing and still work within
the guidelines
of COMAR. So I think that, that may be their main focus, but they probably do throw a worksheet in here or there because the state likes to have physical proof of the learning. And so I know for myself, I'm going to give you this tip. I see a lot of people ask this question too. What do you need to show for specific subjects? So what I have for PE is a calendar that shows 1 through 30, 1 through 31. And on each day, it says 2 sit-ups, 5 push-ups, whatever, right? Just some physical activity. My children are physically active every day, so I'm not worried about that. But they accept that as proof of PE. And that's just one paper. Right. For art, I incorporate art into a lot of the other subjects. So draw a picture to go with this. Sometimes it'll be like my oldest, she likes doing things. And so she'll find some YouTube video and try to recreate whatever it is. Guess what? That's art. She likes doing the Gasha life. That's art too. Graphic art. Throw that in there. So a lot of their interests, you can find ways to document it. And then I only keep like one worksheet a week. So that would be, if you come up with 4 worksheets that are something social studies related, or 4 worksheets, and that's just per month. So that's 1 a week.
You'll have enough.
Yeah, your children shouldn't, well, not say shouldn't. Most children won't give you such a hard time, because I know when my daughters would, I would say, look, I have to have something to show. So I need you to cooperate with me so that we can continue to do this. If you don't, then we will not continue to do this, and I will put you on a school bus at 6:45 in the morning when it's dark and cold outside, okay? And they straighten their little butts right on up, okay? And we move on.
Right.
That's how it goes. So you don't necessarily have to be as staunch and strict as they kind of lay it out to make it
right as it's written.
Yeah,
you do have some flexibility, and I think we talk about reading. You can read science, like popular science. Like we used to get the magazine Popular Science. My kids were they were so excited when that magazine came to the house, and they would read the articles. I didn't read the articles, but they would tell me about them, and that was my
summary. Language arts, they're learning how to summarize. Exactly. And that's what they do. They send the children home with, tell them you got to read 20-30 minutes a day, and then you got to write this little summary, right?
Right, but they were reading things that they actually wanted to, and they were telling me about it because they were super excited about it, and they wanted me to be just excited, so they would tell it to me. And that was a part of our reading. So you, as a parent, have to learn how to be flexible in thought. That's something, like if you listen to all of our podcasts, we always talk about be flexible. But I think, I definitely take a more casual approach than some people. And I feel like if I was more strict about the way I teach my kids, I definitely feel like they would be further along. But I think I try not to push my kids just to, um, I try to be careful. Yeah, I try to be careful for that because I definitely know that they're capable of a lot, but they're still kids. And do I want you to be, doing equations and algebra just because I wanna say that you're doing equations or algebra?
Yeah,
Or
to the horn.
or do you really need to be there? Like if I feel like I'm holding you back by having you, redo other things that we've talked about, then that's very different than me saying, hey, I know that she can do algebra now, so let me push her there. I kind of try to take their lead. Like if
Yeah.
they're naturally ready and I see that maturity, that level of interest, that's when I do it. But I think I don't really try to push my kids just because I feel like they can do it. Because I feel like if you teach your kids, they can do a lot of things
Right.
beyond their grade level. But should you? And that's really just a personal.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah, that's up to you as a parent. That's personal. And so, my goal, though, as a parent, and how I do homeschool is really exposure. Exposure to different information is huge to me. So, I've talked about going to museums and, I let my kids just spend time there to really get acquainted with the information because I feel like museums they don't necessarily tell you what to think, but they expose you to different thoughts. And so you can arrive at your own conclusions. In the science centers, they definitely do experiments and they talk about things. So I think it piques their interest. It's fun. It's inviting. So we try to do those. But I think I'm very open about how I teach. And sometimes I definitely have. I got a question a couple of weeks ago about what math curriculum do you use for your kids?
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever listen to our podcast, I'm not super curriculum heavy. It's not me. Like the math that we do, sure, people talk about Common Core and all that, but really math is the same math that Einstein was doing. Same math. Like this math thing is about patterns.
Yeah.
And it's the same math. Like, sure, numbers keep going, but it's nothing new. Like, we're not reinventing the wheel. We may be teaching from a different angle.
That's what it is. That's the issue with Common Core.
But that's it.
The different avenues that they're taking.
It's just taking different avenues. So rarely will you hear me say, ooh, this curriculum is the bomb. Because that's just not, I don't fall in love with curriculum. I fall in love with information. So I do like math. I have a workbook that's pretty inclusive that we use. And it's working for me. For me, I look at it like this. If it's not working and my kids aren't getting this information, that's one thing. But if it's working, why do I need to change it?
Yeah. I mean, the thing for me this year, I think part of the other reason why I'm not, even though I've never been one to be on the curriculum train, I have found that for my family situation, having that makes things a lot smoother. So I still have to do planning, but I don't have to do as much, and I don't have to come off the cuff so much, and it's kind of lifted a weight off of me, I feel like. Because I can breathe a little easier knowing, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing next. And then, it's kind of like having the bones to the body. So I'm not using it strictly the way they say to do it, but I have it in place to give me that outline to be able to fill in where it's needed. Mm-hmm. So it has made things a lot easier. So much easier. So I think that even though I don't follow it to a T, it's been very beneficial. So I would suggest for anybody who's really flustered, or if you have a situation that is similar to mine. I have 4 children, 2, 4, 6, and 11. And everybody has needs. Mommy. If I cease to exist, their world crumbles and crashes. So I have to kind of make myself available all the time. So it's an option. Find some that are, if you're more of a free spirit like I am, find some that have that kind of built in. That's why I like the blossom and root. The further we go, I really am enjoying it. It's pretty loose, and there's lots of wiggle room, so you can make whatever choices work for you all. It's pretty inclusive. I've been bringing in my oldest in on the science projects there. She has a slightly different response system than the younger, but that's because there's a large difference in ability and processing and age. So, yeah, there's certainly ways to, make things work for you. You just have to be flexible, like
Right.
you say.
Right. And what I've been using is a book. I will definitely link to it in the comments, but I have a book that we use. We take it whenever we're going on, like if I have a day where I have to be out, because just a couple of days ago I had a conference. I was like, look, I'm going to have to take you because for some reason, the school that they go to on Fridays, they were having a field trip and my kids weren't able to go because I would have had to pick them up at 1, which was right in the middle of my conference. So I just took them with me and they were able to have their schoolwork with them. I didn't have to look for it. I didn't have to worry about Wi-Fi, because sometimes when you go places, Wi-Fi isn't always available. Mm-hmm. And so it works for me and is convenient for us and our schedule. So we will definitely link to last podcast where we share all of Miriam's the curriculum that she's using, and I will put the link to the book that I am using. But again, my kids are in a co-op this year and they're doing 3 days a week. They're doing classes. So I think they take 7 classes each.
I thought it was 9. 7. It don't matter. That's
it is 9. It is 9. You're right.
Yes.
It is 9 classes.
They're some busy little ladies.
Yeah. But it's all good. My kids are enjoying it, and that's really what matters.
That's what matters most, right?
Well, so we've talked a lot about homeschooling, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed this conversation, but I am eager to talk about our next topic.
My head hurts.
So we want to transition gears to some current events.
Yeah.
Because we like to talk about what's trending on occasions. And what is trending is a troubling story.
Oh, boy.
There was a little girl who goes to a Christian school in Virginia. And it was reported that she was being bullied. And on the playground, she was pinned down and her dreadlocks were cut. So that kind of, I want to say it probably hit the fan on Friday.
Last week.
Yeah, Thursday or Friday.
I remember hearing that several times on the radio as I was driving wherever I was driving to. And I just remember shaking my head like, are you kidding me? Who the butt does that? Why? Whose children? What kind of parents? Who? Why? Are you for real? It really hurt my heart. I have locks. And I would be really disturbed and distraught if someone cut them. And I'm an adult. So I can't imagine how a child would feel.
Yeah, I would feel violated.
Yeah, in that manner.
And I think just the visual imagery of a girl being pinned by 3 boys was troubling.
Yes. And how did nobody see this?
Right. So when I first shared the story, I did not, I saw the picture of the girl and, it just hurt. I didn't necessarily listen to her tell her story, but I felt for her. Because on more than one occasion in the news have we heard about students having their dreads cut by a person in authority. Never by other students, but typically by a person in authority. And we've heard them being told that their hair was unkempt or
dirty, messy, nasty, inappropriate,
not presentable. Right. So typically you hear that it's not presentable, and so it definitely cut deep to us.
Mm-hmm.
So after the weekend, we find out I was scrolling online like I do, and I was like, oh my gosh, this girl has recanted her story. Now, I thought of it two ways. I said, did she recant her story because things just got too heavy for her? And she was like, I just want it all to go away. So I'm going to just say that they didn't do it. But then I saw her family online. I was watching the news and I saw her, and her parents said that it wasn't her mom and dad. Let me make sure that's very clear. She lives with her grandparents, and it was her grandparents who said her hair is visibly cut, and it was. But it turns out that she's saying that. Now, I didn't see her say it. They wanted their privacy, but she basically recanted her story and says she cut her hair herself. Now, I said, okay, so if this young woman did cut her hair herself, what's going on in her life that she would feel so, I don't even know what the word is. Why would she think that it's okay to all of a sudden take her story back?
Yeah, what was the catalyst? Well, I hadn't taken that thought when you said, did she just want it to go away and that's why she said, I made the whole thing up? Or I was thinking, did someone pressure her into taking that back? Or was she really just lying? Those are the two sides that I considered. Was she really just telling the story because she was telling the story? Or was it that someone who she felt had more power than her kind of cajoled her into saying, I made that up?
So there were people from all over the place coming to her aid to support her. And a matter of fact, I just got a message now about a peace walk for anti-bullying. So the walk will probably still happen in Southeast DC. It's actually going to begin MLK Avenue, Southeast 1900 Anacostia Drive. On October 14th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And even if this story is a farce, because clearly the kid is saying that she wasn't telling the truth, the problem of bullying does exist. Is it always racial? It's not always racial. It exists, and it has existed. When we were in school, some kids were bullied. So clearly, bullying is a thing. But I think this young woman has some other things going on in her life, and she needed somebody to hear her. It was a cry for help, and she's like, hear me, see me. And I think she thought that was the only way to get people to hear her and see her, because, just seeing her grandma and grandpa, she knew that saying some white boys did it was going to get them riled up.
Yes, but this is the other thing. What was she really trying to get heard? If indeed this was a call to help, what is she really trying to bring attention to? Is somebody actually doing something to her?
So is she actually being bullied?
Yeah. So that, or even if it's
based on her parents
sexually assaulted, is she being a teacher is mistreating her or telling her things? Is someone
So something
beating
is
her
definitely
physically. You know what I'm
going
saying?
on.
What is the underlying reason? What made her feel like she needed to do that for the attention?
She has not recanted the bullying. She is saying that she was still bullied. However, they did not pin her down and cut her hair. And I think that's something that people have to really understand about this story. It's not that she's not being teased and bullied at school. She's claiming she's still being teased and bullied, but nobody's doing anything. So that's why she came up with that story.
Oh.
And in a 12-year-old mind, it was okay to stretch the truth for this. She's 12. Like,
she's still a child.
She's a kid. She didn't understand the ramifications of her ignorance.
Okay, well, let me say this. I have a family member who, when he was in elementary school, was sorely mistreated. Even some of the adults were mistreating him. I remember I used to do America Reads with University of Maryland, and I purposely picked his school so that I could be there several days a week to keep an eye on things, because things continually kept happening. He would always say, this is happening, that's happening, and he's telling grown-ups, and the grown-ups are just like, because he was a very active little boy, and I guess you could say annoying at times, but I mean, what child isn't? And the teachers did not. He was a little different. Yeah, he's clearly a truly unique individual. He walked to the beat of his own drum line, I tell you. But they were mistreating him, and he would always get in trouble for defending himself or lashing out. So the bully would pluck him in the ear, and he would say, stop, and he's in trouble for screaming stop out loud. But this dude just keeps flicking me in the ear, right? And that's really very, what's the word I'm looking for? Benign in terms of bullying, because it was a lot worse than that. But just for a brief example, things like that were happening. So I can see how after continual this kind of treatment, how you may say, look, the only way I'm going to be able to get this taken care of perhaps is to make it seem like they almost killed me, or, something truly unconscionable happened. So, I mean, if that's the case, I can certainly see why she would do that, because I've been saying for the last 16 months that this is happening and nobody seems to give a rat's behind.
Right. So what do you think that should be done next? I personally think if I were...
They better not put her out. Go ahead.
I think if I were the adult in the situation, I would pull her out of the school.
I would, but I'm saying that school better not say, hey, Susie Mae, you can't bring your tail back here no more. You've been expelled or suspended. No.
Right.
I don't think
I don't think she should be suspended, but I definitely think that whatever is going on at that school, obviously something is going on that you would come up with that lie. So you definitely
at that age, why?
Right. You definitely need to be taken out. And if anything, she probably should have been in counseling already. And now is definitely time to put her in, just to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like, kids make mistakes. Kids lie. This is not a new thing. It's not unique to her. I saw on one thread where people were saying, oh, she needs to be arrested. She needs to be charged. No, she's a child, and children lie all the time. So does it make it right? No. Should we overlook it? No. But we have adults doing much worse, and they're not getting arrested. So I don't agree with that.
But look, that brings me to a topic for another day, but I'm going to start it right here. Why are we always trying to adult our children? And I'm not going to lie, it seems to happen a lot more to females than males, and it seems to happen a lot more to brown kids than other children. We expect them to, well, I'm not going to say we expect them, but society seems to say, hey, what did she do to make that happen, right? She should have known better. She shouldn't have been wearing that, or she shouldn't have said that like that. Why is she walking with the little look? She's being herself, doing herself, and that's it. She's being a child. Don't sit here and say that because she has breasts, visible breasts now, that she should have known that somebody was going to be looking because she wore a tank top. No. She's 10, 12 years old. She's still a child. And why would we try to enforce adult guidelines on a child? Talking about some arrest them. Now, we're not talking about robbing, killing, this, major things like that. But these little small things, like she should have known better than to not have X, Y, and Z showing. Come on. They're children, and they're going to be children. Like you said, they lie sometimes. Yes, they do. Why? Because they don't see another option. Their scope is very, very, very limited. I mean, even you as an adult, think about what you know now at 30-something, 40-something, 50-something years old, and what you thought you knew at 15, 16, 18 years old. You can look back and say, man, I was dumb as a box of rocks. What was I thinking?
Right. Your scope of understanding is so much broader. You have so many more experiences to pull from to be able to reason. And psychologists will say that kids at a young age, their frontal lobe isn't fully developed. Mm-hmm. And so their capacity to reason isn't fully mature. So I would say this is one of those cases, and I'm not trying to brush it under the rug, but clearly she has a lot more learning to do. But I think that the reason why we're even talking about this, because it definitely hit a core in many people. We're like, not again, mm-hmm. because clearly it has happened mm-hmm. before, not long ago. I feel like every couple months we're discussing
always something. The little boy who had to cut his hair so that he could participate in the wrestling match. Yeah. The little girl who got disqualified for wearing the exact same swimsuit as her teammates because she was too shapely in it or something like that. You have got to be kidding me. Please kiss. Never mind. What? You've got to be kidding me. This is absolutely insane.
So the truth of the matter is ridiculous things are going on. And unfortunately, all those bad things that have happened will be minimized compared to this story. When people think about hair issues, this little girl is going to come to mind. And her story is going to be the one out of probably like 10 or 15 that's going to be the one that's untrue. So it's just like the story that we all heard in school about Don't Cry Wolf. Mm-hmm. This is one of those stories. And I think we have to be very careful when we talk to our kids about racial matters and gender matters, because this wasn't only racial, it was also boys on a girl pinning her down. Like that in and of itself is assault, especially in a time when we have such a heated Me Too movement. And I think we have to be super protective of our boys, because can somebody just out of sheer dislike say, hey, he did this, he sexually assaulted me, and get away with it, and his reputation all of a sudden become tarnished. So I think that it's so important that we tell our kids the truth about how to deal with these type of cases, because boys shouldn't be taken advantage of, just like we don't want our girls to be taken advantage of.
That's right.
And so I think that we have to tread lightly, but homegirl needs some professional help. Yeah, and I hope that she gets it. Mm-hmm. So that's a consensus. On that note, we hope you guys will send us your questions. Tell our podcast, share our podcast with a friend so that they'll be able to tune in. And yeah, like if you have show topics,
We'd love to hear them.
Please feel free to send us an email at cleverlychanging.com. That's cleverlychanging @gmail.com. In the subject line, put podcast questions. Clear as day. All right. All the best to you. Bye.